Go ahead, CEO.
Okay. I live in East Hampton, and my daily experience when I drive around and I go to Montauk, to Southampton, is that when airplanes, they enter Montauk, they turn off the aerosol spray, and they spray up to Southampton, and then they stop. And the patterns that I see, they are cross, X's, and the spray is heavy and goes on every day. Several years ago, I was walking with a friend of mine about a mile in the morning, every morning, and I witnessed a very heavy spraying that month of January, and I got scared and I didn't walk anymore. But my friend continued walking. This person has a very robust health. He's a very strong and healthy person. She came down with a case of persistent bronchitis for 2 months. I couldn't shake it with antibiotics or anything. So there is no absolute proof there, but there is evidence that there's something bad happening there. And also, I would like to say that man can live without food for about 60 days, without water for about 12 days, but without air, he can live 5 minutes. Unfortunately, as an immigrant, I came 40 years ago in this country because I believed in the ideals of this country. And now I see that we have turned everything upside down, and it's a grotesque example of what used to be the United States.
Yeah. Yes.
Jennifer Jager.
You're asking, I want to open up with my favorite bumper sticker states. If you're not pissed off, then you're not paying attention.
Yeah.
That is true, so true. For those who don't believe, I want to describe what is happening. This, by the way, started about 20 years ago, but today it can't go unnoticed. I would like to ask everyone to just look up, pay attention to the skies in the morning, throughout the day, and into the evening. On certain days, you will notice nothing, but other days you can see these planes that are at least 33,000 feet up in the air. Sometimes you might see more than one of these planes in the sky at once. In 2006, my wife and I noticed 4 or 5 planes flying east to west from our first home in Riverhead. My wife and I see as they were flying that they started the persistent contrails and stopped it when they wanted because the planes would still be in the same elevation but no persistent contrails. That was just very disturbing. I had called my senators, congressmen, and U.S. Health Department. You will notice that this persistent contrail that goes from one horizon to the other, sometimes they are short, sometimes they are behind clouds. They sometimes create X's, and other times they grid-like patterns. They eventually expand throughout the day by covering this whole sky, which then look like cirrus clouds. Cirrus clouds appear to be white and light gray in color. They form when water vapor undergoes deposition at altitudes of 16,500 feet in temperate regions and above 20,000 feet in tropical regions, which is why they are not cirrus clouds. I know when I was growing up as a kid, there was no such thing, what I call sky graffiti or sky pollution. There are these nanoparticles of aluminum, barium, and strontium falling from the skies because people are finding them extreme high levels in ponds, lakes, and soil. My family has found that we have high aluminum when we were tested for heavy metals. My wife and I had 11. My children had a 10, but the CDC says that the safe range is 0 through 9. When I had the chelation done, which is a process that can go through to remove heavy metals, which is expensive because medical insurance doesn't cover, my numbers went up instead of going down. That's because the aluminum was pulled out of the fatty tissues or the cells where it was stored. What is really scary, could they be dropping anything else upon us? There is a disease called Morgellons, which came out in the 90s, and there is documentation out there that explains that in depth. It's believed that synthetic polymer fibers that are being dropped, which are catalyzed by the metals in the air. A.C. Griffith was an associate within the NSA, and he carried top secret clearance and a cryptographic clearance, and his more recent times he's associated with CIA operations. On May 14th, 2007, he was interviewed on a program called The Power Hour. He stated that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base was where it has been managed. We know that the people have died over this program, he said, and one of the key people that designed aerosol, barium salt aerosol, was set up by people in the Reagan administration, and he is now sitting in a federal penitentiary. They are still going to him to ask him questions, but yet he is still in prison. That is a little unnerving, isn't it? That the man that has designed the barium salt aerosol is still sitting in prison. The trails, white trails, that are not coming out of the engines. It's coming out of aerosol units on the aircraft. The name of the project is Project Cloverleaf, and in the air industry, it's very secretive. Project Cloverleaf was initiated to allow commercial airlines to assist in the releasing of these chemicals into the atmosphere. Airline companies in America have been participating in something called Project Cloverleaf for some years now. In 1998 and 1999, airline employees have been being briefed on it. A few airline employees who were briefed on the Project Cloverleaf were all made to undergo background checks, and before they were briefed on it, they were made to sign on non-disclosure agreements, which basically state that if they were to tell anyone, they would know they would be imprisoned. My final statement, everyone needs to wake up, start paying attention. There is more to the persistent contrails than the public knows. The military has lots of reasons, especially scalar weapons, and they don't want the public to know. So the best way to convince the public nothing out of the ordinary is to tell them that people are conspiracy theorists. As time goes on, and it's going to be harder for them to hide the truth. Thank you very much, and thank you for everybody coming.
First, I want to congratulate this body for having this hearing, and Legislator Romaine for introducing this bill. Looking at Occupy Wall Street, we find that the people are finally speaking up to things that we know are wrong. We have bills in local communities to get rid of corporate personhood. Because this is the only way that the people are going to have a voice, is to start at the grassroots in our towns and appeal to our local legislators to do something about terrible problems like this geoengineering. I'm a photographer and a gardener, and both avocations are suffering because of geoengineering. It used to be out here, the light. The South Fork was known for its light. The beautiful, beautiful, clear light. Well, that clear light is gone. All we have is haze. We'll have a beautiful day, and the geoengineering will start. You'll see the trails in the sky, and then the afternoon looks like it does today. And Long Island is not also known for its agriculture. We're I believe, the first or second biggest agricultural county in the state. The obvious loss of sunlight is affecting the agriculture. I know in my own garden, my crops are diminishing year after year. Our health is being ruined. We don't know what's in the trails. And I appeal to our legislators to ask some questions for us. Yeah. Where are the planes coming from? Are they coming from Gabriski? Are they coming from another state? Who's ordering them? We need to know. We deserve to know. Our health and the viability of this county is at stake. And we, the people, will prevail.
Totally.
John Minwana, Selden, followed by John Zito.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Ed Romano. You know what this woman said. This legislation is very important that has been brought forth. So please help us stop the chemical spraying and support this ban. The people of New York need to demand a public investigation of the chemical spraying that's going on right here in our backyard. Introduce a legislation to create a no chemical spraying zone here in New York, Long Island. We need to give immunity and protection to anyone willing to come forward to blow the whistle on this chemtrail operation. We need to boycott the products and any companies who produce the chemical-related products. Identify those who are responsible for allowing us to be sprayed to our city, our county, our state, as well as the global level. We need to demand that each city be given any 72-hour warning before spraying, say, for a West Nile virus or something like that. But that they should be given notice, which I think they have. We need to demand an explanation for the chemical spraying. And we need to prosecute anyone who continues to aid these illegal chemical operations and hold those companies responsible that produce the toxic chemicals and metals and biological toxins and any other submicron particles that may cause chemical-related diseases that affect the general population. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have families here and children. And like it was just said, this has to be done at the local level. This will be the first ban of chemical trail spraying in the United States. So this is essential that you act and support the ban that Ed Romaine has courageously stepped forward with. So I ask you all, please, in your conscience, pray to your God or your gods and direct you and help keep us free from this tyranny. My friends, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
God bless.
John Zito, followed by Janice Barcelo.
Good afternoon, everybody, and I wanted to say thank you very much for giving me your attention. I'm not going to speak long. I know you folks are listening to a lot of stuff up here, and a lot of it may be new, a lot of it maybe not. I have 6 children. In this day and age, that's an anomaly all of itself. And I can imagine their lives in the future. And I believe they've been gifted to me. Just let me say that I don't do this very often, and I'm amused at the number of people that aren't actually paying attention. And
Mr. Zito, address the audience, don't kill them all, right? You're about the 12th speaker on this subject, so please continue with your presentation.
I say that with all due respect. I can imagine their lives in the future, and I know that you folks have children and relations. There are challenges. We have systematic breakdowns that are happening, but without getting too much fear base into it, I can imagine for you sitting here, listening to us all talk, that reaching up 30,000 feet and identifying yourselves with something that's happening way up there, it can be a little daunting. The good thing is that there's actually been a lot of research done. And at this point, we are pretty clear that there are chemicals being used that are really deadly. The scientists are good, I'll give them that. They can make an amazing amount of things happen up in the stratosphere. Listen, if they're trading snowfall on the stock exchange, they better be good. Aluminum is highly deadly. Mount Shasta, previously known as pristine, about as pristine a region in the United States as we get. 61,000 parts per million aluminum in the soil in the last 5 years. 61,000. The government has said, the federal government has said that 1,000 parts per million is a toxic ceiling. That's 61 times. There's enough video clips and audio clips and media print on record at this time that I don't think there's an argument whether or not this is happening. We know it's happening. It's no longer trying to convince people that those go or don't go or stay or whatever they do. The question now is that every time officials are petitioned from the federal government to the state level, there has been denial. I've traveled from Hartford, Connecticut to come here because this is the first time that I've been able to address a group of officials that will listen. And I'm so grateful. So we've been denied from the top down. I beg that each of you consider the constituency that you represent. And man, you are in a tough place. Because there's a lot of really outspoken mavens in this audience. I beg that you consider just the facts. All the other stuff, just set it aside and just listen to the facts. If you don't have them, I can make them available to you. Or probably anybody here. Listen to what those facts are and make a decision so that a precedent is set so we can start to move forward. Thank you.